Hey, Coach, I'm so glad you found us on YouTube. Let me help you through this great journey we call coaching. I've won a lot of championships. I have been in your shoes. Let me help you. I took over a program that hadn't won in 30 years. You know, NBA guys, lots of championships. Let me help you become a better basketball coach. So go over and check out teachhoops.com and enjoy the video. So let's just jump in and talk about your playing career and kind of how that developed and related to, in the U.S. and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I guess we touched a little bit on the Irish system already. And so when I was young I would have played with my school team, a club team, a regional team, and then I was lucky enough to I captained the Irish under 16 national team. We played in the
Okay.
European Championships.
And where do
So
you play? Where do you play? Where did those championships happen?
they were in Slovakia.
And who plays in that? Everybody from where?
Europe. It's the European Championships. There's different
Okay.
tiers. This would be tier B.
Okay.
Tier A would be, your Spain, France, Germany, Lithuania, Greece,
Okay.
Italy. So this was tier B. Yeah, played really well, did a good job, and from that, I got some offers to go to high school in America.
Okay.
There was a number of schools asked me to come over, all over the eastern seaboard, really.
Right.
Uh, as you know yourself, different situations, different uh, scholarships, and so I finally settled on Notre Dame Academy, which was just outside DC in Northern Virginia.
Okay.
So that was a prep school, really interesting. I went there when I was 16, so I left home when I was 16 to head over. Lived with a host family. Actually, lived with my assistant coach at the time, Mike Teasley. His
Okay.
sister Nikki Teasley was with North Carolina at the time,
Okay.
UNC, and she went on to be drafted, and she won a championship with the LA Sparks after that. So it was pretty cool. The school was really good. We were in the Beltway Conference, so we would have played against, Kevin Durant was in there, uh, Rudy Gay. There was a ton of different guys in that in that conference. We were ranked number one in the Beltway for a number of weeks in a row. We ranked in the top 10 in America for prep schools. So it was a real eye opener going from Ireland when you're the tallest guy next to the basket to all of a sudden, there's guys bigger than you, more
Right.
athletic, and just another step ahead, which was pretty
And do you
cool to
think that
see.
was important for your development?
Absolutely. I mean, it was definitely a case of a big fish in a small pond when I was here. And then it's the unknown, and then to just be thrown into the middle of it was pretty cool. Like I remember one story, I had just arrived in January 2002. I was supposed to go in September 2001, but then 9/11 happened, so all the visas and stuff got pushed back.
Right.
So that would have been, after the midpoint of the season, as you know. So we're traveling down, going to a game. Now, at this time, I wasn't on the internet. We didn't have access to the same access that we have these days. It's very easy to look up a player or look up schools. And
Right.
so we were heading down to play Oak Hill Academy. I had absolutely no idea what Oak Hill Academy was or who they were, but I remember ringing my dad when we got back up. We got back up to the house after the game. I think we lost by, it might have been 10 points. Got back up, I rang my dad, and I was thinking, I gotta get the hell out of here. we just played against this kid named Carmelo Anthony, and he absolutely killed us, But I had no idea at the time,
Right.
the
And
path
and
that
and
Carmelo
Oak Hill, for
was.
people that don't know, Oak Hill's in the middle of like the foothills of
Oh yeah,
like, oh yeah, it's like in the middle of nowhere.
and they have that wall when you go in, and all the college jerseys are up on the wall from their former players where
Yeah.
they signed, and it's really cool experience.
DC, interesting choice to go suburban DC because DC's an interesting town. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, it's not like going to Chicago or Boston or it's interesting. I mean, it's got definitely
yeah,
different. There's places in DC you don't want to go, and there's places in DC you do want to go.
absolutely. And then, from an outside perspective, looking from Ireland to America, it's New York and DC and LA are the kind of places that you
Right.
hear about. So now it was a good 40 minutes outside DC, but in American terms, that's not very far at
No.
all.
No,
But
that's a
yeah, that was a
suburb.
pretty cool. That was a pretty cool experience. So spent 2.5 years there. You know, it got to the point where it's almost a factory. You know, just the level of players that were coming in was incredible. You know, we had 30, 40 college coaches at every practice when it was open recruiting season, and
Right.
just to be thrown from, you know, trying to find a hall in Ireland to get some shots up and to try and find somebody to go and rebound for you to all of a sudden being in that kind of setting, it was a real eye opener.
Right. And so did you stay for college?
Yeah, so I got injured my senior year in preseason playing against Spalding Academy and Rudy Gay. It wasn't him now, but we just clashed knees, and I did a lot of damage to my knee. It took almost a year to get back right again. But still, I had 11 or 12 scholarship offers, which is
Okay.
pretty good, obviously. Went to Winthrop Academy in South Carolina, Rock Hill, South Carolina.
Yep.
Virginia is funny in the sense that it kind of straddles the line between, you know, northern culture in America and the southern culture. So
It's more
it was,
south. Anybody that lives in the north or in the Midwest would say Virginia's south. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
but northern Virginia up
Yeah,
around DC is a little different from
it
southern
is.
Virginia. So
It is. Yeah. Oh yeah, they're definitely different. It's like, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So I
But
made the decision. Look, Winthrop is obviously a great school. You know, I was there for 3 years. We went to the tournament 3 times in a row. Uh, my last year there, we beat Notre Dame in the first round. You know, Greg Marshall was the coach at Winthrop at that time. So,
okay.
and he went to Wichita State after
State.
that,
Right.
and has obviously done an incredible job since
Right.
he went there. But that would have started long before Winthrop. You know, just oh man, the level of competitiveness and the level of detail in them practices it was a real eye opener, and it was something that I definitely kept with me going forward into my own coaching career. You know, I think with coaches, there's certain stuff you pick up, and there's certain stuff that you say, you know, that's not who I want to be as a coach. And
Yeah.
for me, they're both as valuable as each other. You know.
Right. I agree. I mean, I've said this a million times. That's why you got to find a lot of mentors, because you take a little bit. Ooh, I like that, but I don't like that kind of thing. I think that's really important. I agree.
And it's realizing not to just toss the stuff away that you don't like, but if you try and understand it, and you know that's not what you like, then you know it makes it excels your coaching career, I think.
I think it does too. So then you stayed in the States to go to college?
Yeah, went 3 years at Winthrop and transferred from Winthrop to Augusta State in South Carolina.
Okay.
Not South Carolina, in Georgia, sorry. Went from South Carolina to Georgia. So stayed in the heat. Man, them summers were brutal.
I'm
But
telling you, like northern Wisconsin, like Wisconsin gets really cold in the winter, but it's like it's the opposite down in the south. Like the summers are, it's like the surface of the sun. Yeah. Yeah.
explaining to people that haven't seen it, it's like opening the oven and you just feel that heat coming
Yeah.
out of the
It's
oven
the
onto your face.
humidity. It's the
Yeah.
humidity. Yeah. It's horrible. It's
So
horrible.
in preseason in Augusta, we used to have to get up for running, for conditioning in the morning, as you do. But we used to do it at like 11, 12, and we had to change it to 5:36 in the morning because the big Irish guy almost died a couple of times trying to run around the field in that heat, you know. So
Right.
my my teammates weren't too excited about having to get up at 5:30 for me.
Right. That's funny. That's funny.
But, yeah,
And
but
then,
Augusta was cool. We went to the tournament again 2 years in a row. So I have 5 championship rings from college in America. Redshirted 1 year at Winthrop. First year at Augusta, we made it to the final, NCAA final, lost in the final, and then we made it to the Final Four the next year. So it was 5 years in college for 2 different head coaches, but both extremely successful programs in
and
their
were you
own right.
coming back in the summers to Ireland?
Yeah, I was going back. It just depended on the time. You know, if I did summer class, obviously, I would get back to Ireland for 3 or 4 weeks, and if I wasn't doing summer class, I'd get back for
And was
a
there any
month or
national team
5 weeks.
stuff? Was there any national team stuff at that point?
Yes, so it would have been the year I left Winthrop, 2007, 8. and I went to Augusta. So that summer I came back and started playing with the national team. My second year on the national team, Jay Larranaga, who's the assistant coach now with the Boston Celtics, he was actually a player coach for the Irish national team.
Okay.
Which was pretty cool. So, all of a sudden, like I was the only guy there that was in college at the time. Everybody else was pros. And most of them, there was more American accents on the bus than there was Irish accents, So a lot of guys with Irish passports at the time. But it was pretty cool just to be around that level of professionalism. Like Jay is fantastic. Jay's a great coach. And it was a really interesting experience for me. You're in college, you mess up, you get on the line and you run, and that's standard enough. But now you're experiencing a really great players. Jay Larranaga had a great career in Italy and Spain and France and Europe in general. He'd be a very well-known name. But the fact that he was a player coach, we mess up in a drill and he's like, all right, get on the line and run. And he's standing next to you running as well, So that was a neat experience.
I love that. All right. So then what happened after that?
Yeah. So graduated from Augusta.
First of all, was your knee 100% healthy at that point?
Yeah, it's back now. It really bothered me my freshman year at college. There's a lot of Irish kids now. We're starting to head over to prep school and head over to college. And, I talked to a lot of them, and when they ask for advice, the biggest advice is just if you're making that step from high school to college, is just to get in the good a shape as you possibly can. As you know, the practices in college 2.5, 3 hours long. The first 60-70% of it is conditioning, and it's drills and it's running, and if you can get past that point, and if you're in good shape, it's the next 30% where you get to shine a little bit and play the games, and the coach sees how you operate after being so tired, So not knowing, going into freshman year, not knowing the level, and it's tough until you experience it yourself. Like not knowing the level of conditioning that you need was tough, and then having the knee injury on top of that, it really made that freshman year. The knee would just blow up and swell, and you just start to get into a rhythm, start to play well, start to do well in practice, and then it just blows up again. So it is one of them things that stayed with me for a couple of years. But to answer your question, like it hasn't bothered me in a long time now.
Right. Okay. So then how do you hire an agent? How does that work after
Yeah, so again, there's so many tools, like you have agencies where you go and you sign, and then you have, the way it works now is there's just tons of guys on social media platforms offering to be your agent and it's a bit of a minefield, because you have to really know somebody that you trust, and you have to know somebody that's looking out for your best interest. And I feel like the thing in the back of your head always is, if they're representing two guys in the same position, like which one of their guys are they selling to the team, So it's tough. I was lucky enough. I started working with an agent, but he would have played in Limerick profession for a couple of years. So there was a couple of guys in Limerick that would have known him, and yeah, he became a good contact and got me that first gig in France.
So unlike the States, you just have an agent. That's it, just an agent, nothing else, right? No other people you have to put on your payroll.
Oh, you don't even put the agent on your payroll. The teams pay the agent. So once you go to a team, the team pays your salary plus it pays the agent fee as well.
Ah, so he doesn't take a cut off the top of you. He gets paid by the team. That's
well, I'm sure you pay by the team. Now, I'm sure that cut is coming. It might come from the team, but it's coming from the same pocket, But yeah, you don't essentially pay the agent out of your salary.
Okay. So they want you to get paid more, though. They get a percentage, probably.
Exactly. So the more you get paid, the bigger percentage they get. But there's so my first couple of contracts, you'd have your apartment in there, you'd have your food in there, you'd have a car in there, you'd have medical. There's all different things that you have to check off the box as you're going. And I think the biggest difference between college and playing professionally is just the downtime. it's huge in comparison. You know, you're in such a routine of you're getting up and you're going to class and you're running from there to condition to individuals or weight room, and you know it's a busy day. When you play professional, you know, if you have a day off, that's your day. You know, you don't have to. There's no
Right.
assignments to turn in. There's no homework to do. You got to do your practice with the team, and they'll tell you too. You know, go home and watch a movie. That's the best thing you can do for the team right now is go relax and rest your body. You know, which is
Right.
a complete U-turn.
So I've heard a lot of horror stories of guys not getting paid. Is that true? Does that depend on the league? Does that depend on? 'Cause I
Yeah,
would
it
hear.
depends. Depends on the league. Depends on the circumstances around. Like it never happened to me. I
Okay.
always got paid, which was nice. There was a couple of hairy moments where you know you're sending emails and stuff, but I always got paid. There are a lot of horror stories. I've heard of guys that you know they've left 60, 70 grand on the table, just not able to get it. You know,
Right.
and a lot of that depends on circumstance. Really, if a team is going under, there's not really much you can do. Uh, if a team are hoping to get players for the next year, they'll tend to honor their commitments. But I think it's like any facet of business or sport or anything really. You know, you
Right.
have good people and you have bad people.
Right. And the problem is, I think it's a harder minefield for people, like you said, because there's so many different places you can play. Like,
So many, yeah, so many different places, so many different leagues, and you know, there's always enough players. There's always
yeah.
some guy that's willing to take, you know, a crap deal just to go play pro and not quite understanding what's behind it and what's involved with it, you know.
Right. Right. So, what do you think the hardest part about playing professionally, other than the downtime, is?
Well, the downtime isn't hard now. You get used to that. But
I mean, the downtime can be hard though, because idle minds can get in trouble. Like as coach, I would not like. Ooh, that would worry me. I mean, that happens in the NBA. You see it all the time.
absolutely,
Yeah, they have
absolutely,
money. The problem is they have money and time, which is even worse. If you
yeah,
have time and no money, you can only get in so much trouble. Yeah, but
yeah. I think the toughest part about playing pro is you have to realize that it's a certain percentage of people can do very very well from playing, right? So
right,
you look at NBA players, but even in the NBA, you're looking at you know 450 of the best players in the world. There's a lot of them 10 years after their career, 5 years after their career, you know, they don't have money left. They've gone bankrupt or whatever or they didn't sign good deals or whatever the situation is. When you start looking at leagues lower than that, you know, which is every other league in the world, but if when you start looking at France has 7 professional leagues. Now you're not getting paid enough to buy your mom a house. You're not getting paid enough to buy your mom a car. You know, you're kind of it can almost be you play a season and you're spending your money in the summer and then you're looking for another team come August or September. So
right,
I guess the most difficult part is just for young players especially is to really look at what category you fall into. You know, do I ever regret playing professionally? Absolutely not. I mean, some of the people that I've met, just incredible. You know, some lifelong friends, and for me, there was no better way to spend your 20s than you know traveling the world and playing basketball.
I
So
tell I tell I tell
it's
my
pretty
students
cool.
all,
And then
yeah, I know. I tell my students all the time that your 20s are to figure out what you want to do. Like,
absolutely,
yeah, you don't meet people, have experiences, and then you can go get a quote unquote a real job. Um,
yeah.
in the sense that, whatever, it's you don't have responsibilities per se other than yourself. And yeah, I love that.
That's it. And just being realistic with yourself, I think, is the most important part. For me, like a couple of teams, like I said, you're playing the season. You're enjoying your summer. You go home, like I had an apartment. You have a nice car. You have all that stuff. But then, you know, come August, September,
Right.
you know, it's starting to dry up. You're
Right.
looking for your next team now, and you're looking for, you know, telling your agent stuff like, oh, I want to be in the sunshine, or I want to be somewhere nice, or and you know, if that doesn't pan out for a couple of weeks, then all of a sudden, you know, you're looking at Iceland and you're looking you're
Right.
looking at Norway, and you're like, oh, get me somewhere quick, you know.
Right. Right. I think that's a great. How do you think it made you a better coach?
I think the experience, like we talked briefly about the green shoots coach Emmanuel, for instance.
Yep.
So my last year in France, I played just outside Bordeaux in the south of France. So
Okay.
absolutely beautiful. It's one of my favorite places. Sunshine all the time, and just the people are so laid back and relaxed. It was really a nice place to be. But the coach, Laurent Mobsous, his name was. He was a famous French point guard. So I was the oldest guy on the team. It was a really young team, big team. The point guard was 6'2", and the next smallest guy I think was 6'7". After that, like it was a big long team. But you're practicing twice a day. You know, you're practicing in the morning for 2.5 hours, usually individuals. You're practicing in the evening for 3.5 hours as a team. So it's tough going. Uh, what I learned from Laurent was he always mixed up the warm up so much. So we talked about that dribble tag game earlier, where you're dribbling around, you're trying to catch people, and you have the safety ball. He did that with us. That's where I got that game from. So you're looking at 12, 15 professional basketball players playing dribble tag on the floor, you know. And
Right.
he would just mix it up so much. But then you're running around for a half an hour and you're having fun and you're enjoying yourself. And all of a sudden you realize that, you know, you have a full sweat going, you're limber and you're ready for practice, you know.
Right.
I learned an awful lot from him and that, and just being able to, I think as coaches and when we're in the same world for so long, we kind of look through the same binoculars sometimes, and, you know, being able to take them off and think, oh, you know, my warm up doesn't have to be a layup line, or my warm up doesn't
I
have to
hate the
be,
layup line. Anyone that's listening, I hate the layup line.
I
Don't.
go one further.
Yeah.
5-man weave. I can't stand the 5-man
No.
weave or the 3-man weave up the floor.
Yeah.
And just being able to recognize that you can be creative with this stuff, and
Right.
like it's what's the goal of it, rather than the goal is to get people ready for practice, right? To lessen
Right.
injuries, have people have your players warmed up, limber, ready to go, and limit injuries. So that's your goal. And then being able to take a step back and look at, okay, I can play dribble tag with these guys. You know, I can play. We played a lot of the FIBA 3-on-3 as well. I don't know if you've seen any of that.
Mm-mm.
I do that all the time now. Anytime we have team practice, we'll play 3-on-3.
Yeah, it's the best game. It's the
Oh,
best game for development because you can't hide.
you can't hide, and there's space. You know,
I do it
like
during tryouts. For young coaches, 3-on-3 is the best for tryouts because literally you could put me on the Milwaukee Bucks and you put Giannis and those other people. I can hide for the most part.
yeah,
Like, we'll be bad, but I can hide because the four of them can do everything and cover up for me. When you're 3-on-3, you can't cover. There's too much space. You can't, like,
yeah,
you got to do everything. You got to rebound. You got to play defense. You got
absolutely.
to be in the right direct. I mean, it's perfect because 2-on-2 is almost too mumuch space. Because guys can create on their own, and 4-on-4 starts to get cramped together. I think you're right. 3-on-3 is the perfect game for development, for evaluation, for all that. I agree.
It definitely seems to be that sweet spot there of what you're
Yeah.
talking about. And again, especially when you're talking about youth development and kids, like it's natural for the stronger ones to kind of take the lead, and it's
Yep.
not their fault, you know. It's just what it is. You
Right.
play 3-on-3. There's, like you said, there's no hiding. You have
Right.
no choice but to improve and get better.
And that person
Uh,
has to touch the ball at some point. And that person has to play some help defense. I mean, if they don't, you're going to, I mean, I don't care. You're going to lose. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and for anyone listening, look up the rules. It's very different from 3-on-3 that I would have played in America. Like you don't check the ball after each score. You know, as soon as if I'm playing against you and you score, as soon as that ball drops, I'm getting it under the basket and the shot clock is going again. You know, it never stops.
So where would they find that?
Oh, online. It's
Just FIBA
3x3.
3-on-3?
Yeah, even if you YouTube FIBA 3x3,
Okay.
and they'll show you the rules, and it's an unbelievable conditioning drill.
Okay.
I've played for the Irish national team 3-on-3 as well. We've played in the European Championships, and it's such a spectacle. They're really trying to separate it from 5-on-5 basketball. You know, they're really trying to allow it to stand on its own. It's pretty cool what
It's
they do
coming to
over
the
here.
Olympics, right?
Yeah, it's going to be, well, you know, it was supposed to be this summer, but
Yeah.
what they do in Europe anyways, FIBA Europe, they have these competitions all over Europe. and they'll put the courts on the truck, you know. So they'll drive to Amsterdam, for instance, and you have the famous Amsterdam sign. They'll set up the court right in front of that. You know, they'll set up the court in front of the Eiffel Tower in Paris, and they'll have just all these incredible backdrops, which is really cool. I took a team to Latvia a couple of years ago to play in the European Championships under 18s, and we beat Russia in our second game.
Wow.
It's just incredible. But that's the way it happens. Like
the number of people that live in Ireland is like this little dot in comparison to people who live in Russia. Yeah.
Exactly. Like their faces. If we talk about running for messing up, them lads ran after that game. They would not have expected to lose.
There's stories about when the U.S. hockey in 1980 beat Russia and like this. There's talks about like what happened. Yeah, they're still really running around Siberia right now.
Yeah. And just for the coaches there, the way it works is there's a 12-second shot clock. It's way more physical than 5-on-5. It's a wrestling match sometimes. It's the first to 21 points. It's scored in 1s and 2s. It's the first to 21, it's 10 minutes or first to 21. So when we played Russia, our guys just came out, spread the floor, and we just drive kick, and they just got really hot. You know, we ended up winning 21-9, I think.
Right.
And it's that kind of game that anything can happen, you know. In Ireland,
so anything inside the 3 is 1, and everything outside the 3 is 2.
It's 2, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now it changes with fouls and stuff. You know?
And what happens when I get fouled?
So you can't foul out. First of all, it's not possible to foul out.
Okay.
There's 4 players on each team. 4 players in each team. There's 1 sub. You can only sub at a dead ball. The only time you'll check it at the top is if it's a dead ball. So if there's a foul or if it goes out of bounds, and it's always checked from the X regardless. And that's the only time you can sub as well. So you get stuck in there for 3-4 minutes at a time, and it's tough.
Right. You only got 1 person. You can't sub 2 out. You only sub 1 out.
Just 1. And I remember we were playing in, I can't even remember where it was, Andorra, it's kind of in between Spain and France. And man, it's like 40, 45 degrees. And I'm just looking over at that sub like, man, I need to get out of here quick. And the buzzer went, and one of my teammates runs over and subs out, and you're just like, oh, no.
No, it's my turn.
That's another 3 or 4 minutes that I'm stuck in here now, you know. So, for coaches, look, it's excellent, you know. And I think as coaches, we try to control things a little too much sometimes. You know, you look at that blank piece of paper, and you say, I have an hour and a half, or you have 2 hours, and no, there's some need to try and to block that 2 hours and have a drill to cover every 2 hours. But sometimes, man, you just want to let the kids play.
Right.
You know, we do 3-on-3 sometimes, and we just play king of the hill with 3-on-3. So if you win, you stay at this basket. If you lose, you're down to this one, and you can't get up to the king's court unless you win. You know what I mean? So if you're on the king's court and if you're winning, you stay there and you keep playing you keep playing games. And down the other court, someone has to win to get up and play the king's court, you know. So, and they do it themselves. You know, you might play 5-minute games or something like that. The 10 minutes is probably too much, but the kids absolutely love it. It allows them to be a little creative too. Right. And I believe it feeds into the modern game. It's tough to be a big man in 3-on-3 because there's so many switches. There's so many ball screen switches. You got to be, like you said before, there's so much space that you can't be a big guy who just guards the block. You know, you've got to be able to step outside.
The world of Shaquille O'Neal is gone. I'm telling you, the world of, at least for now. Yeah.
It's funny you say that because Shaq is probably the only big guy that could, you know, he could play in any era. Could you imagine him playing now?
I know.
Incredible.
He is. I mean, Shaq was just a big body, I thought of. But you're right. But he was a horrible free throw shooter.
Absolutely.
They used to call it hack-a-Shaq. I do a thing in my math class. They used to foul him on purpose.
Yeah.
His points per possession when he was like 0.9 or 0.8 every time he went to the free throw line. It was horrible. It was his only weakness. I mean, I think he's in the discussion as one of the best players of all time if he could have shot free throws, but
And what did I say? His hands were too big, wasn't it?
They were. It was like a tank. If you ever saw him in person, it was like not. I mean, it was not normal. It's like, oh my god, like,
And then to be able to move like that is
yeah.
incredible.
Well, that's what if you've seen LeBron play in person, I mean, he's a huge human being. He's like 6'8", but he runs like a 6'1" guard. Like he runs like a gazelle. I mean, that's what's yeah. There's one of those. That's what I tell my students. There's one of those out of the 8 billion people in the world. There's one LeBron. Like,
and what's funny about that is they say that the best weightlifter that ever existed probably never picked up a weight. You know, they say the best football player that ever exists potentially probably never kicked a football.
right.
Then you look at guys like LeBron or Giannis, and it just seems like they've found exactly what they can do. You know.
Yep. It's about that intersection of the right things. So anything else you have any other parting advice, anything else you want to talk about to the coaches?
I think I've enjoyed this. I mean, it's just the one place that we struggle a little bit over here in recent years, man. We've sent so many kids to America now. You know, and women's basketball in Ireland especially, like these girls are really, really good. You know, they're really good. The young players coming through are really, really good. I think coaches in America are still a little bit hesitant when they look overseas, and there's almost an asterisk next to some kids when they look overseas and they think, oh, can they play in college? Like what path did they take over there? It's much easier for a coach, and I understand that, to drive 4 hours down the road and be able to watch a kid play AAU and then make a decision, you know. But
well, I think this is an open gate, to be honest with you, right now, because no one's driving 4 hours right now to watch. Like everything's shut down. I think the summers are going to be shut down. I mean, look at Gonzaga on the guy's side. He's made his career on finding European kids. You know,
it's funny. Yeah, it's funny because like every European championships you go to, I've been to like 4 or 5 now, and every single one of them, you end up chatting to 6 or 7 different NBA scouts. So for me, if I know colleges always don't have that kind of budget, not even colleges, you might look at prep schools, you might look at high schools, they mightn't have the budget to do that. But the fact that the NBA are investing so much in looking at these kids at under 15 and 16, surely that warrants colleges and prep schools to open up their eyes a little bit and, you know, be more accepting of players coming from Ireland or coming from Europe.
Right. I think the internet's made that easier too, to be honest with you.
Absolutely.
You can just get on and watch it. Who was I talking to this weekend? Patrick O'Neill. You know Patrick O'Neill?
From Ireland?
Yes.
Oh yeah, Pat. Yeah.
I talked to him, and he was explaining to me how the U.S. kids come over to play on the net. It was very interesting. I didn't know that.
So that's another thing. I work in Griffith College in Dublin now.
Okay.
And we have 6 scholarships for men, 6 scholarships for women. So our target are, you know, young men or young women that have just finished college in America, and they can come over and you get a free master's degree.
Right.
You know,
that's a great gig. I know.
Yeah.
I know. He was saying they were looking at some Ivy League kids and some other stuff. And I mean,
it has to be someone. Yeah. So it has to be someone that's, you know, so it's structured different, and you have to accept. That's another thing I should have said earlier. When players are leaving America, you just have to accept when you get on the plane that everything is not going to be like it is in America. You know, you'll make the amount of players that I've played with that will only eat McDonald's. You know, like I played in Malaysia, and there's incredible food everywhere, and just stuff that you've never eaten before. And then my teammate will only eat McDonald's. You know,
right?
If you're gonna go do it. Like immerse yourself, enjoy it. You don't have to eat crazy stuff, but at least look at the locals, and it's respectful, and they like you to do that.
Right.
If you make any bit of an effort, like I lived in France with my wife, very little French because they coach in English. So the coaches coach in English. All the players would have grown up playing with American players, so they all know English.
Right.
If you make a little effort, they'll love you for it.
Right.
You know, and it's such a big thing to do that. And you end up gaining more out of it, I believe, because then they open up to you as well.
Well, it's that growth experience too. It's that growth
Exactly.
mindset. Like if you,
Exactly.
you know, but it's really hard. I mean, yeah, there's all these levels too. Some kids are still chasing on the guy's side or even the girl's side, the WNBA. Some are still chasing the dream. Some are just looking for, you know, schooling. So you have 6 scholarships. You can only play 2 kids. So is those 6 scholarships for all the age levels?
Yeah. So the way it worked this past year, for instance, there's only like 6 or 7 games in college, right?
Okay.
The college games, it's completely flipped from America. So club basketball is the biggest over here.
Right.
So if a young lady or a young man comes over here and takes a scholarship to do a master's, they're going to play with the college 6 or 7 games,
Right.
plus they'll play with the club.
Right.
So the way it worked this year is we had 3 players on scholarship played with the Super League, and then we had 2 players played on the Division 1 team, which is like a local team.
Okay.
So it's a really good opportunity, and you know, you talk about chasing the dream. You should chase the dream for as long as you can. You know, why
Right.
not? That's what life is about, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you need to squeeze every little thing you can out of basketball. So it was there long before you were there. It's going to be there long after you're there. And if you can walk away with a college degree and a master's degree, and you know, like in our situation, you get a master's degree and you get to live in Dublin for a year.
Is it so you can do the masters in 1 year?
You do the masters in 1 year, yeah. So it's a win-win. You put that piece of paper in your pocket. Once you have that, nobody can take that away from you.
Right.
You get stats in a European country. So then at the end of your year, you're looking, well, I have a master's degree. Do I want to go work in the business world using that master's degree?
Right.
Do I want to use the stats that I just have to go and play another year or 2 in Europe? You know, it's a win-win.
Do different clubs have different schools which focus on different things? Like if I want to
Absolutely.
I want to go into agriculture, or I want to go into business. Are there different clubs that kind of recruit the different master's degrees?
Yeah, so like ours in Griffith College is business, international business. We're an international college, so the
Okay.
international business degree is really valuable. The
Okay.
journalism degree is really valuable. There's another organization in Ireland now called Sports Changes Life. That's what Pat might have been talking
He
about.
was talking about that.
Yeah, so they have links with colleges and universities all over Ireland.
Okay.
So essentially, with them, you tell them what you want to do, and then they'll have 11 colleges on their books, and they'll say, right, the University of Limerick is perfect for what you're looking to do. So
Okay.
yeah, there's different ways of doing that, but it's not a bad deal, man. You get to come live in Ireland for a year, you get to be a college student for 1 more year, and you get to leave with that paper in your pocket.
Right. That's a win-win.
Win-win. Easy.
All right. Well, thank you, Coach. I appreciate you coming on. I told Patrick, I said it's on my bucket list when Ireland's on my bucket list. So I'm going to try.
Hey, you come with Tim. Tim is over here all the time, man.
Tim lives in Ireland. I told him last time, I said, are you Irish? I mean, you should just become a citizen. It's like, I know.
He's one of us now. We claim Tim now. So
I know. He's an awesome guy. He's an awesome guy.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep. See ya.
Bye now.
Bye. Hey, Coach. So glad you enjoyed that video. Hope you did, at least. Let me know how I can help. Join teachhoops.com. I've been through it all. I've won championships, got a lot of rings. Let me know how I can help you become a better basketball coach, too.